Sirens, Slammers, and Service, a podcast for female first responders by female first responders. My name is Nikki Cloutier, and I will be your host. As a former correctional officer in Alberta for almost 2 decades and the founder of Blue Line Fitness Testing, which provides law enforcement fitness testing and first responder wellness workshops, I started this podcast as a way for female first responders to share the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of their daily work. I want to showcase the unique perspectives, skill sets, and personalities that women bring to a first responder career and share their stories. So get ready to laugh your ass off, learn a whole bunch, and be inspired by some pretty badass women. Let's go. What is up, guys? Welcome back. I'm so pumped to be here with you guys today to wrap up. Can you freaking believe it? Wrap up season 1 with episode 12. It has been a freaking ride. I have loved every single minute of it. I really hope that you guys have too. I hope you've learned lots. I hope you've been inspired by these badass women that I've had on. And I hope you are super pumped for season 2 because I have even more freaking amazing goodness to come your way. I have some insane speakers lined up, some insane guests that I cannot wait to share their stories with you guys and to continue on with this learning that we're doing and hear these journeys of these women through their careers in law enforcement and as first responders. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So get ready for a ride. But first, let's wrap up season 1 with a final episode on my time on our tactical team. That's essentially kind of the top dream for a lot of people that get into corrections. They kind of see this team and they think, oh my God, I totally want to do that. Some people think, oh my God, I absolutely do not want to do that as well, which is totally fair. There's different styles of people. But I, for one, as soon as I started in corrections, I was like, I'm going to be on that team. I'm going to be on that team and I can't freaking wait to get onto it. Prior to me being on the team, I think I'd been in corrections about 4 years at that point, maybe even 3 years. There actually was what we would describe as a riot that happened on the 4th floor. So the 4th floor was our gang floor. Most of our maximum security inmates were there. At the time, I was working up on the 5th floor, which was, again, the females. What had happened was 2 different gangs basically kind of decided that that was the day that they were going to start fighting each other. And so it was a racialized war. That was, again, part of it. And a lot of issues kind of erupted in our servery area. So essentially, we have a main unit where all the cells are, and there's an open common area with picnic tables and stuff and like a TV that they can watch. And then a servery area, which was where we would have them line up for meal service. They would line up, they'd get their meal from the window, and then they'd go back to their cell and they'd eat their meal in their cell. Or if they wanted to exercise, we had kind of like exercise equipment in there. So just like stationary bikes and stuff, all bolted down, obviously, but they could kind of exercise in the servery. And so the fight actually broke out in the servery, and it ended up erupting into quite a large scale, what we would call a riot. So the tactical team was called out for that. It was very scary sitting up on the 5th floor and hearing the noise and smelling the spray coming up through the vents and through the floor, hearing screams, hearing pain, hearing, the TAC team giving commands, hearing them go, entry through the door. And like, you could hear it all, but you didn't know what was going on. And all you were thinking to yourself was, my brothers in blue are safe. I hope that they are okay. I hope that nobody's getting hurt. I hope that nobody, that everybody comes out of this okay. And so that was one of the main reasons that I was really like, oh, okay, this is, I want to get on this team. I want to do this. Like, I want to be part of that. I want to make sure that I'm in there making a difference, not just kind of sitting upstairs feeling helpless and wondering, what I could do to help out or to make it better or to even just be a Tangle team person. And so that kind of led me to apply. Honestly, probably one of the best times in my career in corrections. I had a ton of fun. I learned a lot. At the time there was 2 females that were on the team. One of them left for a different career before I got on the team. One of them was on the team just for a short time while I was on the team, and then she finished. And then it was just me, the only female on the team, and I was the only female that has been on the team when I left in 2009. There hasn't been a female on the team since then. So kind of a cool thing for me to be able to get onto the team. Definitely a big accomplishment for me, something that I'm really, really proud of. It was quite a lengthy process. Again, I've kind of talked about it in episode 1 where, you have to apply for it. You go through the interview, very kind of stressful interview. You're in with the tactical commander and with the tactical leaders and basically trying to interview your way into the position. They've all worked with you because you've obviously been in corrections for a period of time. I think it's a minimum of 2 years, but they usually won't even really look at you at 2 years in unless you're like super stellar. And so, they've seen you respond to codes, they've seen you have, emergency situations and what you do and how you react, and if you keep your cool or if you lose it, or, how you react in emergency situations. And so they kind of know who you are already. And the questions are pretty intimidating, right? They're asking you, like, what would you do in this situation and what would you do in that situation? And you're just trying your best to get through it. Like I've said before, the first time I applied, I was not successful. Again, very devastated, but was like, okay, then I guess that's not my time, so I'm going to go for it again. So when I applied for it the second time, felt a little bit more prepared. I'd kind of been through the process before. So I applied again, had a much better interview again, felt a lot more confident in my interview, had gotten some feedback after my last one, which I highly suggest everybody does. So again, felt like just a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident answering the questions. And then, did the physical, was really comfortable with the physical. Again, had been training really hard for it, had been running a lot and really pushing myself to kind of prove that I was physically strong enough and big enough and fit enough to run with the team and run with the boys. And then it goes to essentially to the team. And so the team itself will then have a list of the candidates and how they ranked in their interviews and in their physical. And then the team starts to sit down and talk about it. And the reason for that is that you need to fit in the team. There needs to be that ultimate trust. And so they go around the circle and they kind of talk about, what everybody's thoughts are about each of the applicants. And you kind of get your say. And it's a pretty honest and pretty blunt discussion, because these are people that you literally are going to be in the worst of the worst with. And so if you have a second guess about this person's ability or about their skill set or about their attitude or how they're going to react in certain situations, it's better to speak up and say it than to not, and to kind of get a person on the team that then you kind of second guess or you don't wholly trust. And so, yeah, I was really, really lucky that the team spoke up for me and advocated for me. And so I was selected. I was selected onto our kind of, we call it the Black Aces, your junior squad, to kind of start to train up and then to be able to get onto the actual team. And so when you're on the Black Aces, if you are called out to a situation, you're not really allowed to do much. You're usually kind of what we call the tangle team. So the full TAC guys will go in, they'll get, they'll deal with everything, and then they'll bring them to the door. And then tangle team, we would take them down to the showers and decontaminate them, or, whatever we needed to do. If we needed to take them to medical, if we needed to remove them, if we needed to, just take them, if there was a multiple offenders, take them to different holding tanks so we could separate them. And then, interviews could begin and stuff like that. And so got a little bit of experience as a tangle team, which was really cool. You're still training, you're in full gear with the team, and you're training and you're learning, and you're just trying to really take in as much as possible. We trained once a week, which was really exciting. So we would go and just kind of train in our gymnasium and all different things. You're training on drill, you're training on, physical control tactics, you're training on cell entries, unit entries, you're training on the weapons that we have. So the different spray options that we have, the different, immobilization techniques that we use, and really, really cool learning. Like, again, totally different than what you would do in a day-to-day officer role. And so that was something I really loved. Again, really kept kind of the fire lit in me about learning new things. And within, the first year, I'd say maybe year and a half, I was on the team for 3 years. We actually did have a riot. And so what had happened was it was the middle of the night. I was at home sleeping, and I was getting ready. I think I was on afternoon shift the next day. So afternoons was 14:45 to 2300. And so I was sleeping, and I guess what had happened on the unit was that the cell doors just malfunctioned. And so all of a sudden, all the cell doors at 2 a.m. popped open. And so inmates, for the most part, sleep really lightly. They, obviously they've had trauma in their lives where, people will come into their rooms and do horrible things to them or assault them or try and steal their things. And so inmates wake up very quickly when they hear the door click. And so basically, or they were still awake. Some of them were still awake because they, have insomnia and stay up and just like to get into shenanigans in the middle of the night. And so they basically, the doors popped and they all kind of, started to kind of come out and look around and wonder what was going on. And that officer that was working on the range at the time was very experienced, solid officer. And he basically said, hey guys, like the doors popped, like we're going to get it figured out. But you know what, guys, you guys can stay out and watch TV if you want. Like, as long as you're quiet and as long as you're not, fucking around, because he couldn't lock them up anyways. So there's no point in telling them to stay in their cells because they can just come and go as they please, right? So he gave them a little bit of rope, which they promptly hung themselves with. And so for about 45 minutes or so, they, stayed out, made some coffee and, Mr. Noodles and used their commissary and watched some TV. And they were having, just a great old time at 2 a.m. We hauled in, obviously maintenance came in, they're trying to fix the doors. They get the doors fixed and the staff officer orders them back into their cells and says, okay, guys, time to lock up, fun's over, ha ha ha. And everybody kind of starts to filter back to their cells except for one guy. And so he had kind of a chip on his shoulder for a while. Normally, actually, not that bad of a con. We dealt with him like on multiple other things. He was, would get into the shit, but he wasn't usually an instigator. He usually was more of like the second, third, fourth guy in. And I don't know what happened, but he just said, no, boss, we're not fucking locking up. And so the staff officer was like, or the staff member was like, well, come on, man, let's go lock up. Like you're locking up. Let's go. I gave you, 45 minutes. You guys have been out. You've had your time. Like it's time to go lock up. No, man. No, we're not fucking locking up. And so he started posturing and started getting louder and louder. And as most people would know, inmates are usually followers, right? They're usually people that are like, well, all right, fucking go time. This sounds like fun. Let's stay out, right? Let's stay out and see what happens. But those types of people are also very much mob mentality type people. And if you've ever been in a mob, if you've ever seen a mob, if you've ever been, somewhere where the tides turn, it becomes very scary very quickly when that tide shifts. And that's essentially what happened on the unit. And so these other inmates that had been starting to kind of filter away to their cells kind of turned around and came back into the common area, and they're watching and they're waiting to see what's going to happen. And unfortunately on night shift, we run a skeleton crew. And so we have very minimal officers on. Obviously, majority of the time, these guys are all asleep. And the cons know this. They know that there's a minimal crew on. They know that there's no, response team coming. And if the response team is coming, it's usually much smaller or, basically 1 or 2 people coming, depending on who's on lunch and who's where and who's covering in the different areas, because we are running on such a lower number of staff. And so, yeah, they kind of stayed out and, started like, no, fuck you. We're not locking up. We're not fucking locking up. Fuck you. And then it started to get worse and louder and louder and louder and louder, to the point where then they started trashing things. So then they were starting to, like rip shit and throw it at the staff station, and so the officer called called for the response team. Response team comes up, and these guys have really started to trash the place now. They're working on ripping furniture out of the floors, and they're working on ripping shit out of the walls, and they're ripping books up, and they're trying to stuff it, and then they're getting their mattresses out, and they're soaking everything down, and they're preparing for a riot. They know that the response team is going to be coming in. They know the tactical team is more than likely coming in, and they're starting to prepare. And so at this point, there's 2 things that happen kind of at the same time. At this point, 2 inmates decided that they were going to take the TV. And so we had a little 13-inch black and white TV that they were allowed to watch. And so the inmates, essentially, they ripped it out of the brackets that were holding it on the wall and bolted it to the wall. And they took it and they hid it in their cell. And at the same time as they're doing this, deputy director that was on at the time, the shift manager was like, okay, we need TAC. Like this is way out of control. This is way beyond what, even if it was an all-call response for the night shift, they need TAC. These guys are out here. They've now got weapons. They've got bits of metal. They've got, pieces of furniture. They've got the vacuum. They're trying to smash, into the staff station using the pole from the vacuum, things like that. And so I got a call at, 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was totally out of it. And I just kind of rolled over and I saw the number for work, and I answered the phone and I was like, no, I don't want to work overtime today, because I thought it was a call for overtime for day shift. And on the phone was a good friend of mine, and he's like, no, Nikki, it's a TAC call out. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to work overtime. And I must have been on speaker, because in the background, one of the other tactical leaders started yelling, this is not a fucking call out for overtime. This is a fucking TAC call out. Get your fucking ass out of bed and get here. And I was like, yoink, instantly awake, like fucking instantly rolled out of bed. My husband looked at me, he's like, what the fuck? I was like, it's a TAC call out. I gotta go. Fucking grab my shit, ripped my sweatpants on, jumped in the car, bombed to work as quick as I could, because I knew if this was a full team TAC call out, it's a big fucking thing. This means that it's a riot. If you're getting called in the middle of the night, it's fucking go time. So got there, basically kind of like went straight to the boss's office. What's going on? Yeah, it's a full scale riot. It's up on the fourth floor. We need to go get dressed immediately. We need the first crew dressed. So you go running into the change room, and it's chaos. Like, there's team members everywhere. There's gear everywhere. We're all trying to get our gear on. I just happen to be wearing pink panties, just because just as a female, you have pink things, right? And you just strip down. Like, you're not looking at what people have. Who fucking cares, right? You're just getting your shit on. And so I rip my fucking sweatpants off, pull my gear on, and I'm fucking changing and, get my stuff on, get my full gear on, get dressed. And as I'm going, I can hear in the background, fucking pink panties. Who has fucking pink panties in the TAC room? So we're running along down the hallway. And so we basically, fully dressed, we got up to the unit, and it was myself and a team of 5 or 6 other guys, just like an initial team, got our first kind of eyes on the situation. And it was like fucking pandemonium in there, and inmates were trashing the place. They were, like I said, trying to rip furniture out of the floor still. They were trying to light things on fire, and they were trying to, just cause complete chaos. They all had towels and t-shirts wrapped around their heads and their faces, because they knew the spray was coming, and they knew, that this riot was going to be a big deal. And so, they were trying to smash through the staff station window with the vacuum pole, so you could see them basically hitting the window, windows starting to, spider, windows starting to kind of start to chip and crack. And, the boss that was up there at the time was, and I've never seen him like this. He's usually very, usually a very kind of reserved and calm. It took a lot for him to get rattled, and he was hopping from foot to foot, and he was like, get the fuck in there, do something. They're going to come through the fucking window. And I was just like, that to me was like the instant, like, oh fuck, like this is, it's serious, but like to see somebody that's usually very composed freaking the fuck out, I was like, holy shit, okay, we gotta go. And so we kind of devised a quick plan, and we were like, okay, we're gonna crack the door. And we had what we call the ISPRA. So it is essentially like a fire extinguisher size of OC spray, and it has different attachments on it. We have a wand, so you can stick it underneath the cell door and you can spray it into the cell. It has kind of like a almost like a nozzle that you can spray into the unit, and it's very intense, very concentrated OC, and it basically goes out into the air and then settles. And so it sticks to things, and it sticks to skin, and it sticks to, it's getting into the air. So it's basically just totally permeating the air with OC. And so we got ourselves ready. We stacked up at the door. We had our shield on, we had baton guys ready. We had the spray guy ready. We cracked the door, and we painted that unit orange with the ISPRA, like from top to bottom, all the way across the unit. And you could see the orange, like it painted the back wall by the cells orange, and you could see it just dripping down, and you could see the haze in the air. And of course, we're gas masked up, so we're okay. But you can see the inmates instantly turn tail, majority of them, and fucking run, right? They head straight for their cells. They're coughing, they're hacking, they've soaked their t-shirts, and they've got towels over their faces, but it's not helping, right? It's landing on their skin, it's fucking burning on their skin. And, so they decide, okay, majority of them decide, we're done. We're fucking locking up. Fuck this. We're out. We know the pain train's coming. We're out. And so a bunch of them, tuck into their cells, lock the doors behind them, and hack and cough and start screaming and crying, boss, you got to get us out of here. We're dying. We're fucking dying, boss. You got to get us out of here. Please come help us, boss. We didn't want to do this. We weren't part of this. Meanwhile, you just saw them fucking trying to rip something out of the floor. No, you weren't part of it. Not at all. No worries. And so we basically shut the door, kind of let them like marinate in there, waited for the rest of the team to come up and stack up and get everybody ready. And then we essentially went in and cell by cell by cell extracted the inmates, brought them into different areas to decontaminate, brought them downstairs to interview to find out what was going on. And so I was on shield for that. And so basically you stack up at the door. So we like slam the shield against the cell door and give directions. And if you know me, I have quite a loud voice, and I can make it go pretty deep if I need to. And so I was in charge of basically giving inmates direction. And majority of inmates don't know who's on the tactical team. We try and keep our identities secret for a number of reasons, right? We don't want other staff members talking about who's on the TAC team. We don't obviously want inmates knowing who's on the TAC team, and, just to keep us safe and to keep the integrity of the team intact. And so, I was trying to make my voice quite deep because I didn't want them to know that I was on the team. And, being as small as I am, it's kind of, that's kind of a telltale anyways. There was one other guy on the team. I think I've talked about him before in a different episode. He was just a little bit taller than me. So together we kind of looked, you could maybe mistake us for each other when we were in full gear. And I always had my hair fully tucked up. You could never see my hair in my helmet and stuff like that to kind of, keep it that I was a female, keep that out of it. And so hit the door, inmates, come to the door. Inmate, kneel down, right? And so you're giving direction and you're telling them, get on their knees, get their hands behind their back, or hands on their head or prone out on the floor, depending on what my cuff guys wanted or what the baton guys wanted. And then, as we open the door on the shield, you're basically braced and ready for if they run at the door or if we need to fucking enter, you hit them with the shield, you take them to the ground, the shield goes on top. And then we essentially try and get limbs and cuff and shackle. And so, I'm on the shield and Kate, majority, like almost 99% of them were compliant, right? Because they know as they look out the door and they see 6 or 8 dudes dressed all in black with gas masks and batons and shields. And they're like, yeah, I don't really want to fuck with that. I'm good, right? And they're hacking and coughing. And so majority of them were compliant. They'd come to the door, we'd cuff them, we'd bring them out. We'd, like I said, take them down, get them decontaminated, hand them off to the Tangle team, whatever. And then one cell, as we're extracting them out, and again, we didn't know that the inmates had taken the TV. But as we're extracting them out, we see underneath the bunk, they've got the TV and we're like, what the fuck what the fuck is the TV doing in here? And these 2 inmates, they were so funny. They looked at us and they were like, well, I mean, boss, we knew if they wrecked the fucking TV, we'd never get another one. So we wanted to protect it. So then that way, when they open up the unit, we still have a TV and we don't have to wait because we know that you'll never, ever give us a new TV if we wreck this one. And it was like so hard not to laugh inside your gas mask because you're just like, I mean, he's not wrong. He's not fucking wrong. We would not give them a TV for forever and ever and ever as punishment for fucking rioting, right? So, I mean, and especially if they broke it, right? Yeah, like, I see the logic. I see where you're going with this guy. Like, I get it, right? There was over 48 inmates that we had to extract, right? 24 cells. And so we're going top and bottom and top and bottom and top and bottom, 2 different levels, 2 different teams extracting. And then finally hitting the point where I couldn't yell anymore. My voice was absolutely done. And so turning the shield over to somebody else and I took up baton and then they couldn't yell either because it's hard to yell through a gas mask. If you've ever tried to give direction while wearing a gas mask and bellowing, it's really hard on your voice. And so after 3 or 4 cells, when the inmates are like, I can't hear you, boss, they looked at me and they're like, please, can you just do it again? And I was like, okay, fine. So for the rest of the unit, I'm yelling, but my voice is getting a little bit higher and a little bit higher and a little bit higher with each one. And we hit a corner cell and there was an inmate in there that very well known to the majority of us. And he's like, I know that's you, Thompson. And I was like, I'm like, inmate, get on the ground. Inmate, do not talk, right? Because I'm trying not to laugh because he knows it's me. I know that he knows it's me, but I'm not going to let him know that it's me, right? And so we get him out. We take him as we're going the whole time. He's like, Thompson, I know that's you in there. I know that's you and you're fucking short. I know it's you. I can hear your voice. I know it's you, Thompson. And I was like, it's not me, like kind of like just not talking and okay, yeah, let you believe what you want to believe. And so we ended up extracting the unit, getting everything dealt with, then having to get people in to clean the unit, to clean up all the OC because it had contaminated everything, moving these inmates around because the unit was out of commission. It was absolutely totaled and trashed. And then, interviewing the instigator of it and being like, and again, some of that we all knew and we all kind of had what we felt was a rapport with the inmate because he usually was quite easy to work with and just saying like, what the fuck was that, man? Like, what the fuck were you thinking? And he just was like, I don't know, actually. Like, I just figured like I would, I just didn't want to lock up. I was like kind of fucking sick of listening to the rules and I didn't really want to listen anymore. And I was just like, do you fucking see the unit? Do you see what you fucking did? Like, you're never going to come out of SAG now. Like, the rest of your life, you're going to be in fucking SAG for this. He's like, yeah, I didn't really think about that at the time. And I was like, yeah, you fucking think? Like, Jesus Christ. So that was my very first, kind of riot. And then we went down to the tack room and we're getting kind of debriefing and everything. And I made the mistake. So we've got our gas masks on, but I still got my coveys on because you wear, black coveralls over top of your gear. And I still had my coveys on. And I made the mistake of sweating. And so I took my coverall, the edge of my coverall, and I put it on my hand. And I went to like wipe away the edge of like by my hairline, wipe away the sweat, not thinking to myself that my coveys are like absolutely soaked in spray, like just disgustingly soaked in spray. And so I wiped my head on both sides. And then within about 30 seconds, promptly felt my fucking forehead start to burn like it has never burned before. And then two red lines running from the edge of my hairline all the way down to like the edge of my jawline. And I was just like, you're a fucking idiot, Nikki. You're a fucking idiot. Like, let me just sit here and burn in this OC like residue. Perfect, perfect. So yeah, so we get changed and we're get decontaminate ourselves, wash our shit, and get changed. And we're again having now we're having a little bit of food because it's whatever time, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. By the time we kind of finished off, maybe even 10 or later, and one of the boys goes, "Did I hear that there was pink panties in the tack room?" And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, can I melt underneath the table? Like, can I fucking hide? And everyone's looking at me. I was like, I'm sorry that I did not get a chance to change my underwear into the issue regulated black ones before I jumped out of bed and came running to a tack call. You can just all deal with having pink panties in the goddamn tack room. And they all fucking started laughing and they're like, it's been a joke to this day. There's one of my good friends who'll always say, "Oh, Nikki and her pink panties." And I'm like, listen, shush about my pink panties, right? So that was my first riot. The second thing that we got when I was on the TAC team, second big thing, because we had a couple, just cell extractions and kind of smaller stuff where you basically dress a team and then they pussy up right away and, they cuff up and you don't have to do anything, was we had information come in that we found a broken window. And so somebody had managed to burn through a window and get to the external pane. So normally, obviously, we have multiple panes of glass so that they can't do this, but he had managed to do this and had been covering it up with toothpaste and things like that. And so had managed to kind of hide this from us. And then information came in that he had brought a gun into the jail via the window. And so obviously that causes mass panic because, firearms within a jail, not a good thing. And so they locked the whole jail down for 2 days. And basically we searched as the TAC team and extracted every single inmate. There was over 800 inmates and we went cell to cell to cell through 7 floors to essentially extract everybody, have them questioned, and then have a team go in and search the cells. So it was exhausting. We were working in teams of, I think, 12. And so 12 would go up for an hour and would extract, and then you'd come down and you'd get a little break and get some water and maybe get some food. And then the next hour, you're back up there and you're extracting again. And we did that for 2 days straight. It was a very, very long day. But I do remember there was one inmate and he was on the second floor on the first day. And he's a bit of a mouthpiece, a bit of a head case, like definitely crazy, but a pretty funny guy. Like, I mean, again, pain in the ass, but he'd make you laugh. And so he was cracking off and making some comments when we were extracting him. And the people that were interviewing were getting really fucking annoyed with him because they were asking him questions. And we knew that he knew something because he'd been up on the 6th floor before and then had come down to the 2nd. And so we were like, hey, he's got to know something. But he's being a little shithead. And so he basically got told where to go and how to get there and ended up being moved to the 6th floor while we were kind of finishing the floors, right? And so we get to the 6th floor on the second day, and he's back up there and he's like, "Oh man, fuck guys, you guys searched me yesterday. God damn it, I was already, oh fuck, please guys, just leave my room alone. Like, leave me alone." Of course we're like, "No man, out you go, like we're hauling you out," and he's lipping people off again. And so he again got told where to go and how to get there in a physical fashion, and off he went 2 days in a row. And so he was not very happy about that. But yeah, like again, just some great opportunities to kind of put our skills and all of our training to use. There's not many jails in Alberta that have had the opportunities that we have. And again, I say opportunities not in a positive way, but when you train that hard and you're training for every, you know, situation or every event, and then you finally get to actually put your training into practice, it's pretty freaking awesome to be able to do, and to be able to review it and say, like, what can we do better, what worked, what didn't work, because you're working on a lot of theoretical stuff when you're training, right? You're not having a riot every week, you're not having a cell extraction every week to be able to refine what you're doing. You're really just working off of best practice and previous incidents, right? And so and what we did, it then be transferred down to other centers throughout the throughout the province, right? Because we are the busiest and we do have the most incidents, right? And so what we would learn, we would then pass over through courses and through communication with other teams of, we did this and try this. And if you're going to enter, do it like this way. Or if you're going to have a cell entry and the door opens this way, you should line up this way or stack up this way. And so some really great chances to really or put into play, what we've been practicing, which was awesome. I did have one incident as well when I was a shift manager. So I had moved. As soon as you become management, you move off the team, and I had actually put in my resignation when I found out I was pregnant with my first daughter. And I think I talked about this in episode 1, but basically found out I was pregnant, could not fit my pants on anymore, and had to tell the team that, I'm sorry, boys, but that's it. And was totally devastated. If I could have stayed on the team, in some function, I don't know how I could have done that as a pregnant person, but if I could have stayed on the team, I totally would have, because I was devastated that I had to resign and had to step down. And when I came back, I'd moved up into a different position. And so getting back on the team wasn't really kind of in the cards at that point in time. And then moving into management, we don't usually have management on our tactical team because they're the ones that are having to make the calls, right? They're the ones that are running the shifts or running the calls and bringing TAC in. And so having that conflict of interest of being the person that's making the calls, but then also on the team, just isn't feasible. And so I was acting as the shift manager, and it was in the summertime. And we had an inmate on our maximum security pod who had basically taken himself hostage. Very, very mentally ill person, crazy as a fucking shithouse rat, to be perfectly honest. And he had gotten a razor blade, and he was holding the razor blade to his throat and threatening to slash his throat if anybody came into the cell, and had already slashed his wrists and had already slashed his ankles superficially, but, was bleeding out. And we knew that he was the type of inmate that definitely would go for it. Like, he would go all the way. We knew that he was, he'd been talking about being suicidal. He was looking at a pretty big sentence. He had no more supports in the community, basically had burned all those bridges, had burned most of the bridges that were inside the jail. There was nobody that wanted to, help him out with canteen or phones or anything like that anymore. And so, he basically was feeling at a complete loss, and so had taken himself hostage in his cell. And so as the acting manager, I got called, hey, this is going on. Can you come down to MaxPod and take a look? And I was like, oh, okay. As soon as they said the inmate's name, I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay, of course it is. So I head down there, and the two I had, the frontline supervisor and then the assistant manager were both previous TAC boys. And so all three of us had been on the tactical team at some point. They were shift leaders at a certain point in their time on TAC. And so a lot of experience. And so I kind of went on the unit, and I started talking to myself, what the fuck's going on? What are we going to do? And, he's doing this and this. And yeah. And I'm like, okay. And have you tried to talk to him? Yeah, I've been talking to him for like a fucking hour. And then, the supervisor, yeah, I've been talking to him for like 2 hours. I've been trying to, get him to fucking give it up and, bribe him a little bit. We'll give him some extra trays or give him canteen or whatever the fuck, just give us the razor, right? And so I was like, okay, well, I'll go and try and talk to him and see maybe, a girl coming to talk to him. And him and I had a decent rapport enough that, you can play that mom card like as a typical, female. We can, kind of give them that mom talk, and sometimes they listen. And so I went to the door and I was like, hey man, like, what's up? What are you doing? What are you like? What's going on? Like, and he just, was like, nope, I'm not fucking falling for it, Thompson. Like, you're not getting this fucking razor. I'm going to kill myself. You come in here, I'll fucking slash up, and I'm going to fucking bleed out right here on the floor. And I was like, well, you will, because you've got a razor blade to your jugular. So great. And so, tried to talk to him for another kind of 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And at this point, I'm like, holy fuck, like I have the rest of the jail to run. Like, I don't just have just this inmate on this pod. There's, I think there was 1,400 inmates at the time, and I can hear other things going off, right? I can hear, a code going off on another unit. I can hear, my radios going constantly, like, we need this. Hey, Thompson, where are you? Like, so I know that there's a million other things going on, and I'm like, okay, well, we got to fucking wrap this shit up because we don't got all night to fucking stand here with this guy. And so I went back to the boys and I'm like, hey, what do you want to do? And they're like, well, I think we should cell extract him. Like, we have enough guys on shift today, and one of the the TAC leaders was on shift on overtime, and like I think we can cell extract him. We'll just hit him with the shield before he has a chance to slash up, and then we can take him out. And I was like, all right, that sounds good to me. I agree. I think so, but I can't make the call to call TAC in. That has to go above. So I go to the office and I call the manager that was on call. Hey, so this is what's going on, and like I would like to call TAC in, and I'd like to use a cell extraction team for TAC. Well, I can't really make that decision. Like you should call the director, like the head warden. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I call him. Well, he has been drinking, so he can't come in. So then I call back to the other guy. Oh, he's also been drinking. I mean, it's a Friday night and they're on their days off, or, they're on their time off. So he can't come in. He's at a football game and the other one's at a festival. And so I said, well, are you giving me approval? Can I stack a cell extraction team? They said yes. And so I did what I was told, which was to stack up a cell extraction team. Called the boys and I'm like, yeah, Kate, let's get a team together. You guys get dressed. Like, come talk to me, fill me in on what the plan is. I think we can go in. We have a side door that we can use. I think we can go in through the side door and basically kind of creep along the tier and then hit him as a surprise. We'll just crack the door and open it and get him. Yeah, okay, no problem. But once I basically give authority to TAC to do a cell extraction, my authority then ends because I'm not out there on the team. And so the tactical team then has the authority to do and assess the situation as they see fit, which I agree with. I 100% agree with and support. I at the time am the suit up in the bubble in the air watching. I am not there. I am not seeing it in real time. I say that with quotation marks. But, I'm not the one who's assessing the situation as it's immediately rolling out. I'm watching from afar. They got there. They kind of creeped along the tier. We had, two other guys, the two staff from before, kind of standing at the door trying to distract him. We just kind of, again, still trying to talk him down. We had medical teams stacked and ready to go in case he did slash up, to make sure, that he was safe, and we're able to give him immediate medical assistance if he was able to, slash before we could get through the door, or if he kind of was spooked and ended up slashing up. And so basically they creeped down, they kind of had a conversation, and then they had a backup plan that they were going to use. We have a gun that has beanbags in it, so like the beanbag gun, and that if he charged the door with the razor blade, they would hit him with the beanbag gun, or again, main plan is we're going to hit him with the shield and take him down, protect himself, protect ourselves, hopefully contain the blood that will probably go a lot of places if he does manage to kind of nick himself. And so they got to the door, they opened the door, he made a motion, they ended up hitting him with the beanbag gun, he dropped like a sack of hammers, but as he was falling, managed to slash his throat. And so the boys jumped on him. We immediately had healthcare there. We had him up and out and onto an ambulance and out the door like lickety split. It was an absolute, in my mind, textbook display of what we should have done. And I was so freaking proud of our team. I was so proud of the boys for the professionalism that they showed, for the ability to, basically take care of the situation the way they should have, and make sure we saved his life. If we hadn't, I will put $100 down easily that he would have slashed his throat at some point in the evening and died on us, and we would have found a dead inmate, and been dealing with a dead inmate versus somebody that, had a bruise and was injured. Like the beanbags don't fucking tickle, that's for sure. And so he definitely had some injuries from that and had slashed, but hadn't hit himself as deep as he normally would have because he was, on his way down and kind of shocked from being hit with the beanbag gun. I was super proud of the boys. We had a debrief. We made sure everybody was safe, made sure everybody was okay, did up all the paperwork, and I was really, really proud of the team. And so I ended up, I don't know that if I worked the Saturday or the Sunday, I can't remember, maybe I did, but on the Monday, we went to morning meeting. And so morning meeting, every morning you'd have to go to a meeting and talk about, what had happened the night before and the weekend. And it was right before morning meeting, and the lead of our area came down And I could tell that he was so angry. And I was just like, I like kind of looked up and I was like, hey. And he looked at me, he's like, what the fuck were you thinking? What the fuck were you thinking, Nikki? And I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, I can't fucking believe you shot him with the beanbag gun. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh my God. This is like, it's a fucking gong show, Nikki. How are we going to explain this? And I was just like totally flabbergasted. I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? We saved this fucking guy's life. Like, did you watch the video? Like, we literally saved this guy's life. We did a fucking phenomenal job. You should be applauding the fucking team and giving them kudos for their amazing hard work and their professionalism and how they fucking took care of the situation with the most, like, the least amount of injury or danger to anybody, not ripping me a new fucking asshole. And so I got called up to the big boss's office and basically I got told that I was being put under investigation for making the call to have him shot with the beanbag gun, which wasn't actually my call because, again, once you call tech in, that's their call, right? But again, I fully supported their decision. And so, yeah, so I had to go to investigation and basically explain my reasoning and as to why I had called in TAC and why I had made the decision. I was told I should have stood there and hostage negotiated with him for the remainder of the evening, or as long as it took for him to put the razor blade down. Like I didn't have fucking 14 other inmates that I had to take care of and a jail and 150 staff, right? I was told, that I let my emotions get the best of me and let TAC go in and just be all willy-nilly. And I was in tears. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, I thought that I had done all the right things. I thought that I had made the right decision. I thought that the result was what we wanted. Here was an inmate that was safe and alive and with bruising, with minimal injuries. He could have been dead, right? And I told them that. I said, you would have been dealing with a dead inmate if we hadn't have done this. So do you want a death or do you want a fucking guy that's got to go to the hospital because he's got some bruising? Well, it's TAC and it's going to go straight up to the minister. And how are you going to fucking explain this? And I was just like, well, then maybe one of you guys should have fucking came in and made the call then if you didn't trust my fucking judgment. But you didn't, and you gave me authority, so then let me fucking do what you just gave me the authority to do, which is fucking make decisions, right? So again, like one of those things where, you just kind of you thought you did the right thing and you got shit canned for it and and in trouble for it. Went through the investigation, explained to the investigator the decisions I'd made, why I'd made them, what my thought process was, what showed the videos, right? Talked about the specs on the beanbag gun. They were outside the range of where they weren't too close. They were outside of where they were supposed to be. They used it effectively and appropriately. There was no issues. And luckily, not even luckily because we did nothing wrong, but the investigator agreed and came back and it was, a no issue. But it definitely was held over my head for, quite a while over making rash decisions and not, following procedure, even though I had followed procedure and done what I was supposed to do. So sometimes you just got to kind of shake your head and go, all right, well, I don't know why we have this team of highly skilled individuals that train all the time if we're not going to fucking use them, right? We might as well use them. That's what they train for. That's what they're specialized in. That's why we literally have the fucking team, is to deal with those situations. So that, my friends, is my time on the tactical team. Again, one of the best times of my life. I highly, highly recommend if you get into corrections, if it's something you want to do, or if you're in police, or if you're in, wherever your agency is, if you have a specialized force like that, that you do what you can to get on it. The learning and the collaboration and the teamwork and the trust and the just total you truly are putting your body on the line for your coworkers and for your friends at that point, in the shit of the shit. Absolutely, totally one of the best parts of being in corrections. I loved it. I wish I could go back and do it again. Definitely one of the most fun things. One of the most not fun things was having to run the COPAT in full gear, including a gas mask. So if you've ever ran the COPAT, it's quite a challenging fitness test for correctional officers. You got to do it at the time we had to do it in 250. Now they've changed the standard to 320, 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Includes a 35-foot run, and then 6 sets of stairs. You have to touch every single stair on the way up and the top, and then every single stair on the way down. So you do 6 of those. Then you go through an obstacle course. You have to jump over 3 18-inch like little hurdles, and then you have to hit a push-pull machine, which is set at 70 pounds. That simulates as if you're fighting with somebody, and then as if you're escorting somebody. And then you have a 3-foot vault that you have to hop over, and you can only touch it with your hands. You can't touch it with any other part of your body or your equipment or anything. And on either side, you do a controlled fall to the front, and then on the opposite side, you do a controlled fall to the back. You do 10 of those, and you have to get all of that done in 2 minutes and 50 seconds. And we did it in full gear with a gas mask on, and that was definitely one of the most challenging things that I have ever done. Not being able to breathe, like trying to control your breath when you are at max heart rate and you are fucking huffing and puffing and you're steaming up and you're fogging up inside your gas mask and you can't really see where you're going. But it was amazing because it was also very, very indicative of what we would have to do if we were fighting with an inmate in a cell, in our gas masks, in our full gear, right? The things that we would need to do. And so again, another great opportunity that I never would have gotten the chance to do if I hadn't made the tactical team. And so again, to the boys that I was on the team with, absolutely loved the time that I had with you. It was super fun. I'm, still friends with a lot of the guys that are on the team, and, we reminisce about the good old days and when we were on the team and the fun that we had. And to the boys that are on the team now, keep up the good work. You guys are professionals and you work really hard and you put in the training and you put in the time and you deserve to be where you're at. And I just wish that I wish you safety, and I wish you that stability when you're in there, and support from management when you are doing the job that you're called out to do. So that's all from me, guys, today. Episode number 12. Again, so fucking excited that I started this podcast, that I got the opportunity to kind of come into your lives and talk to you and make you laugh and make you vomit a little bit and make you just kind of a little bit more aware of what happens in that kind of mystical, magical world of first responders. And again, season 2 is coming, guys. It'll probably be out in about 3 weeks. So stay tuned. Revisit some of our old episodes. Share it with a friend. Please, the more people that you can tell, the more listeners that we can get, the greater community that we can have. And if you ever have any questions, or if you ever want to be featured on the show, please, 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 please reach out to me. I would love to interview you. I would love to hear your story or answer your questions. I'd love to give you a shout out on the show if you have a question and you want me to say that it's so-and-so that's asking this question. I absolutely will, because I think that, the community and the collaboration that we get from each other is phenomenal. So that's all for today, guys. Take care of yourselves. Love you. Have an amazing rest of your day. Well, that's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for listening, tuning in, and sharing your time and energy with us. Make sure you check out our next episode starring another badass female first responder on Apple, Spotify, or TuneIn. And make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Blue Line Fitness Testing. Stay safe and keep your head on a swivel.